how to speak like Lewis Capaldi.
Thanks very much for this.
Thanks very much for this. A lot of people think that song is about my ex-girlfriend, who you can now see every night on Love Island. Hello everyone, this is Billy. Today in this video, we are going to learn how to speak like Lewis Capaldi. Recently, Lewis Capaldi has won Song of the Year at the Brit Awards 2020, and we're going to watch the video clip of his acceptance speech. Let's see what he says and find out how to speak like Lewis Capaldi.
Hello. Hello, my name is Lewis.
Well, first of all, Lewis Capaldi is from Scotland, so when he speaks with a relatively thick Scottish accent.
Hello.
Hello. So at first he says hello, but it's not hello, it's hello. So it's not hello, but hello. Hello.
Thanks very much for this.
Thanks very much for this. And then he says, thanks very much for this. But when he says very, it's not very, but it's very, very. So the R sound is more like flip sound. So it's not very, but it's very, very. Thanks very much. And when he says this, he says like this. So it's not this, but it's more like this. So thank you very much for this. It's more like thanks very much for this. So very and this. So thanks very much for this.
A lot of people think this song.
A lot of people think that song. And for this one, a lot of people is more like a lot of people. A lot of people. So he doesn't pronounce T sound. So it's not like a lot of people. It's a lot of people. And when he says think this song, it's more like thank this song. So think is more like thank. So it sounds like THENK. And when he says this, it sounds like this. So not this, but this. So it sounds like THES. So thank this song. So a lot of people think this song is. A lot of people think that song
is about my ex-girlfriend who you can now see every night on Love Island.
It's about my ex-girlfriend who can now see every night on Love Island. And when he says about, he says like about. So it's not about, it's more like about. So is about is about. And when he says my ex-girlfriend, he says like my ex-girlfriend. For friend, the R sound is more like flip sound. So it's not friend, but friend. So my ex-girlfriend is my ex-girlfriend. And he says you can now see every night. And for now, it's not now. He says like now. It's pronounced a little bit different, right? So it's not now, but now. So you can now see is you can now see. And for every, R sound is the flip R sound. So he says like every. It's not every, it's every. And for night, you might pronounce like night, but he says like night. So for every night, it's not every night, but it's every night. So for the full sentence, it's a lot of people think this song is about my ex-girlfriend, who you can now see every night on Love Island. But when he says that,
a lot of people think this song is about my ex-girlfriend who you can now see every night on Love Island.
A lot of people think that song is about my ex-girlfriend, who you can now see every night on Love Island.
But it's actually about my grandmother.
But it's actually about my grandmother. He reveals the truth by saying this. So when he says about my grandmother, it's not just about my grandmother. You remember the word about, right? So it's not about. When he says that, it's more like about. And for my grandmother, he says more like my grandmother. So grand has flap R sound. So it's not grand, but it's more like grand. So my grandmother is more like my grandmother. So when he says, but it's actually about my grandmother, it's like, but that's actually about my grandmother.
Who sadly passed away a few years ago.
And he tells a sad story by saying, who sadly passed away a few years ago. So for passed away, it's not passed away. When he says that, he says like, passed away. So it's not like away, it's more like away, away. So who sadly passed away is more like who sadly passed away. And for a few years ago, when he says ago, he says ago. There's no ago, it's ago. So a few years ago is a few years ago, a few years ago.
But yeah, no, thank you so much.
And like ago, when he says thank you so much, he says thank you so much. So it's not thank you so much, it's thank you so much, thank you so much.
Thanks to my grandmother for dying. Sorry, I'll see you later.
And after a weird joke, he says sorry. And when he says sorry, it's not sorry, it's more like sorry. R sound is the flipped R sound, so it's more like sorry. So let's see all the sentences to review.
Thanks very much for this.
Thanks very much for this.
A lot of people think this song is about my ex-girlfriend who you can now see every night on Love Island.
A lot of people think that song is about my ex-girlfriend, who you can now see every night on Love Island.
But it's actually about my grandmother who sadly passed away a few years ago.
But that's actually about my grandmother, who sadly passed away a few years ago.
Dying? Sorry, I'll see you later.
Sorry, I'll see you later. And now you know how to speak like Lewis Capaldi. So, thanks very much for watching this, and if you like this video, don't forget to press thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye!